Welcome to Bible Bedtime. My name is Dana, and I am your host. Here at Bible Bedtime, I read a full chapter of the Bible, and I do so in a quiet voice with soothing sounds and music to help you fall asleep peacefully. Here in the United States where I live, we have had a national holiday and an unofficial holiday. And me personally, I had a special family event. So last Thursday was the third Thursday in November. We always have Thanksgiving, which traditionally was a time when we celebrated the survival of the first colonists to come to the new land in the United States. Over time, it has become more of a celebration of family and blessings and a time to be together and enjoy wonderful foods and each other's company. The following day is a time when a more recent holiday has begun called it's Indigenous Heritage Day, and this is a day to celebrate the heritage of those indigenous peoples who were here in America long before any colonists arrived. And since I have someone in my family who is part of an American Indian tribe, it becomes an important part of our celebration together as a family. Finally, on the next day, Saturday, we had a fantastic celebration of life for a family member. It was a time when so many of us had an opportunity to reconnect and spend time together and focus on the blessing of having a person in our lives that we loved very much, who loved us as well, who has moved into a mansion over the hillside and is in the arms of God. Of course, it was a sad time, but it was also a time of incredible joy. And because of all of these holidays, you may have noticed I'm a few days late on getting an episode out. I appreciate your patience regarding that. I started in the last episode focusing on some nations, some areas in the world where Bible Bedtime does not have listeners, and there are far fewer nations with no listeners than nations with listeners, and I think it's a wonderful opportunity for us to pray and recognize that there are nations where the Bible isn't being heard. And it might be that it just isn't being listened to. Or it might be that there are restrictions on which podcasts citizens in those nations are allowed to listen to. And we have no real way of knowing which is which. But it doesn't matter, because we have an opportunity to pray for our brothers and sisters. Tonight, I want to focus on the nation of Estonia. It is in Northern Europe, near Finland and in Sweden, up north where it's cold, and it is on the Baltic Sea. It has a long and complex history. It was part of the Viking kingdom in prehistoric times. And in more modern times, it has gone through a lot of changes, being part of the USSR and then becoming independent. And so tonight I pray for our brothers and sisters in Estonia that even if they aren't listening to Bible Bedtime, that they are exposed to the Bible and to have an opportunity to grow closer to God. And as you go through the next few days, when you think of it, say a little prayer for our friends in Estonia. But right now, let's focus on relaxing, settling into bed, and getting ready to fall asleep. As we do in each episode, let's take 3 deep breaths. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Excellent. Tonight is episode 139 of the Bible Bedtime, and I will be reading from Leviticus 4. The Lord said to Moses, "Say to the Israelites, when anyone sins unintentionally and does what is forbidden in any of the Lord's commands, if the anointed priest sins, bringing guilt on the people, he must bring to the Lord a young bull without defect as a sin offering for the sin he has committed. He is to present the bull at the entrance to the tent of meeting before the Lord. He is to lay his hand on its head and slaughter it before the Lord. Then the anointed priest shall take some of the bull's blood and carry it into the tent of meeting. He is to dip his finger into the blood and sprinkle some of it 7 times before the Lord in front of the curtain of the sanctuary. The priest shall then put some of the blood on the horns of the altar of fragrant incense that is before the Lord in the tent of meeting. The rest of the bull's blood he shall pour out at the base of the altar of burnt offering at the entrance to the tent of meeting. He shall remove all the fat from the bull of the sin offering, the fat that covers the inner parts or is connected to them, both kidneys with the fat on them near the loins, and the covering of the liver, which he will remove with the kidneys, just as the fat is removed from the ox sacrificed as a fellowship offering. Then the priest shall burn them on the altar of burnt offering. But the hide of the bull and all its flesh, as well as the head and legs, the inner parts and offal, that is, all the rest of the bull he must take outside the camp to a place ceremonially clean, where the ashes are thrown, and burn it in a wood fire on the ash heap. If the whole Israelite community sins unintentionally and does what is forbidden in any of the Lord's commands, even though the community is unaware of the matter, they are guilty. When they become aware of the sin they committed, the assembly must bring a young bull as a sin offering and present it before the tent of meeting. The elders of the community are to lay their hands on the bull's head before the Lord, and the bull shall be slaughtered before the Lord. Then the anointed priest is to take some of the bull's blood into the tent of meeting. He shall dip his finger into the blood and sprinkle it before the Lord 7 times in front of the curtain. He is to put some of the blood on the horns of the altar that is before the Lord in the tent of meeting. The rest of the blood he shall pour out at the base of the altar of burnt offering at the entrance to the tent of meeting. He shall remove all the fat from it and burn it on the altar. And do with this bull just as he did with the bull for the sin offering. In this way the priest will make atonement for them, and they will be forgiven. Then he shall take the bull outside the camp and burn it, as he burned the first bull. This is the sin offering for the community. When a leader sins unintentionally and does what is forbidden in any of the commands of the Lord his God, he is guilty. When he is made aware of the sin he committed, he must bring as his offering a male goat without defect. He is to lay his hand on the goat's head and slaughter it at the place where the burnt offering is slaughtered before the Lord. It is a sin offering. Then the priest shall take some of the blood of the sin offering with his finger and put it on the horns of the altar of burnt offering, and pour out the rest of the blood at the base of the altar. He shall burn all the fat on the altar, as he burned the fat of the fellowship offering. In this way, the priest will make atonement for the man's sin, and he will be forgiven. If a member of the community sins unintentionally and does what is forbidden in any of the Lord's commands, he is guilty. When he is made aware of the sin he committed, he must bring as his offering for the sin he committed a female goat without defect. He is to lay his hand on the head of the sin offering and slaughter it at the place of the burnt offering. Then the priest is to take some of the blood with his finger and put it on the horns of the altar of burnt offering, and pour rest of the blood at the base of the altar. He shall remove all the fat, just as the fat is removed from the fellowship offering, and the priest shall burn it on the altar as an aroma pleasing to the Lord. In this way, the priest will make atonement for him, and he will be forgiven. If he brings a lamb as his sin offering, he is to bring a female without defect. He is to lay his hand on its head and slaughter it for a sin offering at the place where the burnt offering is slaughtered. Then the priest shall take some of the blood of the sin offering with his finger and put it on the horns of the altar of burnt offering, and pour out the rest of the blood at the base of the altar. He shall remove all the fat, just as the fat is removed from the lamb of the fellowship offering, and the priest shall burn it on the altar, on top of the offerings made to the Lord by fire. In this way, the priest will make atonement for him for the sin he has committed, and he will be forgiven. In Season 3, I am following our chapter reading with a reading from Proverbs. Tonight, I will be reading Proverbs 20 through 33. Wisdom calls aloud in the street. She raises her voice in the public squares. At the head of the noisy streets, she cries out. In the gateways of the city, she makes her speech. How long will you simple ones love your simple ways? How long will mockers delight in mockery, and fools hate knowledge? If you had responded to my rebuke, I would have poured out my heart to you and made my thoughts known to you. But since you rejected me when I called, no one gave heed when I stretched out my hand. Since you ignored all my advice and would not accept my rebuke, I in turn will laugh at your disaster. I will mock when calamity overtakes you. When calamity overtakes you like a storm, when disaster sweeps over you like a whirlwind, and distress and trouble overwhelm you, then they will call to me, but I will not answer. They will look for me, but will not find me. Since they hated knowledge and did not choose to fear the Lord, since they would not accept my advice and spurned my rebuke, they will eat the fruit of their ways and be filled with the fruit of their schemes. For the waywardness of the simple will kill them, and the complacency of fools will destroy them. But Whoever listens to me will live in safety and be at ease without fear of harm. We'll close tonight with the Lord's Prayer. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come. Your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us today our daily bread. Forgive us our debts, as we also have forgiven our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one.